Good morning, good afternoon, or whatever it is for you when you're viewing this video. Everybody comes up to their own conclusions about steels, and man, I'm gonna have a quick conversation with you about some steel properties while I'm drinking a cup of coffee this morning. This is just gonna be my opinions that I've formed. Obviously, when we talk about the importance of edge retention or corrosion resistance, that could be a substandard, because like if you live in a very arid environment, corrosion resistance might not be a thing that you're as concerned about. Where if you live in a humid environment, corrosion resistance may be something that's extremely important to you. I do live in a very humid environment. However, I counterbalance that with oil. I try to keep all my guns and all my knives oiled. So like corrosion resistance really takes a back seat for me because I'm going to battle it off with chemicals anyway. But anyway, so I don't have my Magnacut knife here. I've only got one. It was made by PTSD Blade Works at Rockwell hardness was 63 and a half to 64. Somewhere in that neighborhood. I can't remember. I was 64 and a half. Sorry, yeah, because these numbers aren't going to reflect my knife. But let's take a look at this. All right, so this is off of Dr. Larry Thomas's charts. He's got a 60 HRC chart for just about every steel that he could come across. Now this is I know there's several different types of ways, heat treat protocols to get a knife to 60. I'm not here to discuss what's best for HRC or for heat treat protocol because I don't know. Not especially not for each steel. I mean, that's not what I went to school for. I make my money other ways, but just to discuss the kind of the differences between a 60 and a 63 HRC on Magnacut, and then we'll discuss my thoughts, not just on Magnacut, but on some other steels. And if it becomes too long, I'll break this up into several videos. Okay, let's just starting off with Magnacut because that's the big deal right now. So 60 HRC, your edge retention is 5, your toughness is 7, corrosion resistance is 10 out of 10. This is a factor that cannot be changed. This is because of steel composition. The elements that make up your steel are going to determine your corrosion resistance, and it doesn't matter how you HRC it, the corrosion resistance should not change. All right, so sharpening is 6 out of 10. Everything else can be affected by the HRC, as we'll see when we go to the 63 HRC chart. So as for a 60 HRC Magnacut blade, you got a total score of 28 by 40, which I think is complete and utter BS myself because I don't think sharpening should be in there at all. The ease of sharpening shouldn't factor into the quality of the steel. However, I'm going to be a hypocrite when we go to 14C28. So we will, we definitely will leave this out of a 40 scale. But if you was to take the ease of sharpening out of the equation, you'd have 23 out of 30. All right, so anyway, all right, so you get down here to 63 HRC. You got an edge retention of 8 out of 10. The toughness goes down to 3. So the edge retention moves up 3. The toughness moves down 4. Corrosion resistance stays the same because it cannot be changed, right? The sharpening goes down from 3 to 10. So when I was talking to a knife maker about Magnacut specifically and HRC specifically, this is what I was told. I was told in short runs, it really doesn't matter. Like if you're only making 5 to 10 knives at a time, then you do what you got to do. You pay the extra cost or whatever. But when it comes to like producing a knife, like thousands of knives, like over in a short period of time, the tooling cost has to come into play. And to make one blade at HRC versus a 63 HRC, you're looking at about a $3 to $4 difference, and we would pay that $3 to $4, right? But it's not just that; it's also time. So like when we look at a knife production company and we're wondering why they're not going up to 63 or 64, it's because it's going to take them more time to change out all the tooling in the CNC machines. It's carbide tools that cut down these machines. Now, if a set of carbide tooling in a CNC machine can cut 2,000 blanks at 60 HRC, you could pretty much equate that number to about 440 blanks at 63 HRC. So I do have a little bit of a background in CNC machining. That's what I did until I started driving a truck. It takes about 40 minutes or so to change out all your carbide tools, at least in the CNC machine that I was running. I'm not sure about knife tool, like I'm not entirely sure, like what goes into the knife CNC machines. So I'm not going to act like I do. But in my experience, the tooling takes time to replace. Like, so if you're running an 8-hour shift, and we kind of went through this with a car company, a Japanese car company that is very, very attuned to their quality. That's all I'll say, because I don't want to get in trouble here. Not that many people may see the video, or not even that the company may care, but let's leave that company out of it. They are very attuned to their quality. We were playing around with their heat treats because they wanted us to. So and we were playing around with their heat treats on a very sensitive item on the steering wheel. So just going up 3 or 4 degrees on a HRC, it did, there wasn't enough quality increase or value to cut the production by 70% and have less vehicles for sale. Like that, there was a formula that had to be equated, like, how many miles is this actually going to affect the vehicle? Like, is it worth the investment to either buy a bigger building so we can buy more machines to pump out the same numbers, or is it more of a like, especially if we're not, like if the 60 HRC was doing just fine at 200,000 miles, but the 63 HRC would keep it going to 350,000 miles. How long does the average user actually keep their cars, and how important is that last 150,000 miles? So like, that's in cars, right? So like, keeping it to knife steels, you still got that type of mentality, is like, is it okay if I keep my production at 2,000 per week, or is it okay if I drop down to 440 per week? Like, and I'm not sure about the exact equation, because I'm not sure about the exact tooling procedures. But what I am sure about is it will cut production. So the knives will be way more rare. So you're looking at adding machinery, and you're looking at adding employees. You're looking at adding a lot more cost than $3 a blade. You understand? Because it costs more money to have a bigger building. So on my Magnacut spectrum, this is just kind of where we're at. But like, you see the score goes down from 28 to 40 to 24 out of 40 because of this sharpness. It's pretty much because of the sharpening. That's going to take the biggest hit, and the toughness does too. The toughness lost 4, the sharpening lost 3. The corrosion can't get any better, so it's staying the same, but it can't get any worse either. And the edge retention went up 3. So like, got a grand total of 24 out of 40. So on that spectrum, like, if you were just looking at this number, like 24 out of 40, then you've actually, the steel's lost a little something. And what it's lost is toughness, and toughness is one of those things that's important to me, as we'll see when we go through, go step forward. Let's talk about CPM 154 versus 154 CM. Even Crucible says that this is a huge step up. Like, if you read what Crucible says about CPM 154 versus 154 CM, they say it's a huge step up in dynamics. I have talked to a knife maker I'm not going to mention his name. I don't know if it's okay. I'll talk to him after the recording of this video. If it's okay, I will, I'll leave his link in the description, and he can weigh in on it if he wants. We'll leave that totally up to him. That would be the only fair way to do that. Okay, so if we're looking at an HRC of 60 on both steels, and both of these were Dr. Larry Thomas's testing, you got edge retention of 5 out of 10, toughness at 5 out of 10. This is CPM 154. Corrosion resistance 7 out of 10, sharpening 7 out of 10. Okay, go down here to 154 cm. The only thing that changes is toughness, 4 out of 10. So the difference between 4 and 5, I'm not entirely sure how important that is to you. I'm looking at that number, but on the grands, on the grand scheme of things, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a upgrade. Just looking at the numbers on paper, it doesn't seem like there's a huge difference, man. The corrosion resistance is about the same. It's just as easy to sharp. Now, what we'll have to take into effect is how far can we push CPM 154? Can we take it up to 63? And if we do, how do those numbers look there? I don't have a chart for that, so I'm not gonna assume. And the same thing would have to be said about the 154 cm. Most of the time you see this stuff on outdoor blades. So 60 is pretty high for an outdoor blade, really. I mean, like for a chopper or something like that, you're probably going to want something more like 58 or 59, which definitely takes the edge retention down, but it also brings the toughness way up. And the corrosion resistance can't change, and the sharpening will be easier if the HRC is less normally. So we're looking at a 24 out of 40 and a 23 out of 40 still. One of my favorites, 14C28. I love Rochambeau's video on 14C28. He was talking about 14C28 kind of being a super steel in a way, but everybody looks at 14C28 as an upgrade from D2, and most people's concern is edge retention, and this dude makes some great points, man. So if most people's concern is edge retention, even D2 ingot at 60, the edge retention is 5 out of 10. The toughness is 4 out of 10. Corrosion resistance is 5 out of 10, and the ease of sharpness is 6 out of 10, making it a 20 out of 40 knife. But if you look at 14C28 on the grand scale, you got edge retention 3 out of 10. Toughness, 9 out of 10. Corrosion resistance, 9 out of 10. Sharpening, 8 out of 10. This is one of my favorite steels. I don't have to worry about the oil. Where I live, 14C28 is a great steel. Edge retention is 3 out of 10, but man, the ease of sharpening is 8 out of 10. And it really is. It's so easy to get back into shape. It literally takes seconds to minutes to get your blade back up to par if you don't let it get too far out of hand. And being honest with myself, this is pretty much what I do with the knife, is just kind of cut Amazon boxes and stuff like that. Not that I don't have knives that I do harder things with, but just a regular folder knife, man. If you stick around the channel, if you've been around the channel for a little while, you'll know that I'm not exactly shy about fixed blades, and fixed blades do most of the heavy stuff around the house. Even when I'm on the road, if I got to do something crazy, I'm not grabbing something with a locking mechanism. Final thoughts? Okay, I mean, just looking at Sandvik 14C28, you got a 29 out of 40. On the grand scale of things. Now, like I said, I think the sharpening is kind of BS, in a factor. So this is where I'm going to be the hypocrite that I claimed that I was going to be, is because sharpening that knife back into shape just takes it takes very minimal work. So that edge retention is not that important to me on 14C28, because everything else it offers is phenomenal. Let's take a look at some other stuff. All right, AEBL, very close and chemical or structure to 14C28. Actually, 14C28 was based off AEBL. You'll find this on a lot of custom knives, custom manufacturers. You don't see this much in production knives, but it's very close to 14C28. We'll see that we got a 3 out of 10 when toughness is 10 out of 10, which is so it's 1 point tougher than 14C28 in toughness. Corrosion resistance, it lacks a little bit, and it's easier to sharpen. So it's just a little bit easier to sharpen. Is that right? I don't think so. No, it's the same. So it's a little more corrosion resistance, and it's a little tougher. The sharpening is about the same. The edge retention is about the same. You got a 28 out of 40 instead of a 29 out of 40, and people love that still. You know, like don't talk to many people that badmouth AEBL, but 14C28, in my opinion, would be a upgrade just because of the corrosion resistance factor being so big. You know, like the toughness, I can deal with a 9 out of 10. That's great. You know, I mean, like Magnacut is a 9 out of 10 when it comes to edge retention. But Magnacutt's not something you'll probably find in my house because it's not tough. It's like a 1 out of 10, you know, or 2 out of 10, something like that. I don't want to misquote, but it's not that great. S90V. This one you do find in my house. I do like it. The edge retention is a 9 out of 10. It's good enough for me. And this is at 60. We know it can be pushed further, so we can get a 10 out of 10 on edge retention, maybe an 11 out of 10, you know, like depending on who's sharpening and who's doing what. The corrosion resistance is excellent at 8 out of 10. The toughness leaves a little bit to be desired. Now, S90V actually does better, according to most knife makers, at a Rockwell of about 58. You know, 58 to 59, that's not very soft. I mean, that's not too soft for CPM S90V. It's too soft for some stuff, according to some people. But I think Spyderco, even the Spectrum was 58 to 59 on the S90V Paramilitary 2. I've got one around here somewhere, can't reach it. Anyway, so that toughness will be a little higher. It'll probably be about a 6 out of 10. The edge retention may be an 8. Corrosion resistance cannot be changed. It's 8 out of 10. Ease of sharpening would go up a little bit because it's the edge retention would go down a little bit, and you know, it's just got an excellent steel there, and the grand score is still 23 out of 40 because of that sharpening. You know, like when you take that sharpening out of the equation, you got a super steel there. But we're not going to take the sharpening out of the equation. Bringing me to S35VN. S35VN. Let me rip this paper out. This paper needs to come out. And then we're going to go back to 154. This is one of the main reasons I'm making the video, to be honest. Talk about the 154 CM. Talk about the S35VN at the same time. CPM 154. Now all three of these heat treated at the exact same. You're looking at very similar attributes. So you got edge retention of 5 out of 10 on S35VN, just like you do with CPM 154. The toughness is the exact same as well. The corrosion resistance is a little bit better on the S35VN, and it's supposed to be a 6 out of 10 on sharpening, which will be a little harder to sharpen than CPM 154. Okay. 154 CM, got a 5 out of 10, a 4 out of 10, or I'm sorry, edge retention has got 5 out of 10 on both of them. Toughness, you got a 4 out of 10 on 154 CM, where it's a 5 out of 10 on S35VN. Corrosion resistance is 8 out of 10 on the S35VN, where it's a 7. So it's a little bit of an increase on corrosion resistance, and it's a little harder to sharpen than CPM 150, or I'm sorry, 154 CM. Okay. So for all the S30V fans out there, and I am one, you know, like I love that still. I think it's great. All right, the edge retention is a little less on S35VN than it is on S30V. Well, we're talking about 1 point. So you got a 5 on S35 and you got a 6 on S30. The toughness is a 5 on S35 and 4 on S30. The corrosion resistance is 8 on S35. It's 8 on S30. The sharpening is 6 on S35 and 5 on S30. So it's easier to sharpen, but it has less edge retention. It's tougher, and it's got the same corrosion resistance. There's a whole lot of people that hate this steel, and I was one of them too. And there wasn't a reason why I hated this steel. I just hated this steel because everybody else hated the steel. And I've got, like I've come to terms with that. I'm I allow myself to get caught up in some junk that, I've got several knives around here now that are a pleasure to use in S35VN, and there's like which I'm not gonna act like I've used this one. I just got it, but I've got so many blades. They're not, of course, they're not just sitting around freely, but I've got a lot of blades in S35VN that are a pleasure to use. They're a pleasure to sharpen. They're, like I use this one quite a bit this week. You can probably still see I haven't cleaned it off yet. This is the Rat Model 1. It's in S35VN, and it's just kind of, it's been a great experience. I haven't run across a stone because I haven't had to. I've just kind of stropped it, and like I really didn't need to do that. I just wanted to shine the edge up just a little bit. But S35VN, just because there's companies out there that screw up the heat treat, it's got nothing to do with the steel. I don't hear as many people bad mouthing M390 or even 20CV. Like most people don't bad mouth those steels, and they are rarely done correctly. Really, like they're rarely pulled into their potential. Like most of the time when M390 and 20CV are released by somebody, they're soft. What's a cold steel? Cold steel is known for having some of the best heat treats. At least with edge retention. Let me say that. They're known for having some of the best edge retentions on the planet. Especially in the budget realm of things, man. I've never seen another company, I've never held another AUS 8 knife that I've gotten more use out of. And this is a 58, I want to say, is what Dave told me. And it's a CPM 20CV. That would be considered extremely soft. Like, I happen to be in accordance of agreements with Dave. This is a hard use folder. It's supposed to be a virtual fixed blade. So, I'd take that toughness over the edge retention myself. And without the edge retention, 20CV is a lot easier to sharpen. But edge retention is what most of you are concerned about. So this is extremely sharp. It's extremely soft. It could be 5 points higher, no problem. But we rarely ever see a 20CV or M390 or Carpenter CTS 204P get the same flack as S35VN. And it's the proof's in the pudding. It's just not that bad of a steel. Can we quit hating the steel and start avoiding the makers that aren't heat treating to your desired edge retention? Because that's all I can really say, right? I'm not saying they're heat treating wrong. What I'm saying is, like, they're not heat treating to your desired effect. But it's like my Magnacut, I definitely take the easier sharpening and the toughness over that edge retention. That's just me personally. Like, same flip of the coin, Maximate, one of the best edge retention monsters that we have to play with. Probably not going to catch it in my house. Not with the toughness of one. Y'all, thanks for sharing a cup of coffee with me, talking about a little steel. As always, leave your comments below. I know I'll have a lot of flack and feedback and disagreements, and that's fine. I just urge you to make your own opinions based off your own testing and what works best for you and your environment and your task. That's all I ever ask. That's all I'm going to expect out of myself. If I have terrible luck with 5 knives and 5 different brands and they're all M390, I'm probably going to start avoiding M390, But if I have really good luck out of one M390, I know it's not the steel, Or I can assume it's not the steel. I can assume that brand did that steel right. Guys, until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.